Your 20s are always an interesting time in your life. You're no longer a kid. By this time, you've already had your first job, you're figuring things out, you're meeting new people in college, maybe getting into your first relationship, you start thinking about moving out of the house, and trying to look like you know what you're doing when in reality, everyone else is just as confused as you are. Looking back at my 20s, I achieved a lot. I became a homeowner at 26. At 27, I had my first annual six-figure income. And now I'm 29. I have a 791 credit score, 2 credit cards, I have a fully paid off car, and I have no consumer debt. And I have a strong monthly saving power because I have no debt. Now I'm in a really comfortable spot to take on my 30s and potentially achieve real wealth by the time I'm 35. Now, with all that said, there are 7 things that I would have done differently knowing what I know now. Also, majority of my viewers are not subscribers, so please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get into the video. Number 1, the first thing I would have done is got a credit card earlier. I was always disciplined with money, but I was really late to the credit game. I did get a basic college student credit card from Wells Fargo, but I didn't have any real big expenses and I never put much on the card in the first place. The first time I realized that credit was important was when I made my first big purchase. I bought a newer car when I was 23, and because of my credit score, I had to pay more than my twin brother did for his car. And I remember sitting at the dealership, kind of sweating my situation because I was embarrassed. I knew my credit score was very average, and I felt like I could have done more at that point to put myself in a better position. So when you get a new car, there's a lot of paperwork and there's a lot of documents you have to sign. The salesperson helping me through the process of buying my first car was a very nice lady named Paige. I'm sitting at the desk with my father. She brings out the paperwork, she slid the paper across the desk and pointed towards it and she said, "That's all looking good." And I know she was just being kind, but my credit was like 670 or 667 or something like that. Very average, kind of below average. I remember just feeling so embarrassed because I really didn't know what I was doing. I remember shopping for laptops at Best Buy. The clerk offered me a Best Buy credit card, and when I said yes, I was declined, and I wasn't sure why. And to be honest, I was a little bit embarrassed because I thought I would have gotten approved. Even when I purchased my home, my credit score was very average, about 670. And had I had a 700 or higher credit score, my monthly payment would have been much lower. I would have been able to save much more money per month. I would have been able to pay down my debts much sooner, and I would be able to invest so much more into the portfolio that I want to create. And although I'm in a good spot now, I just know I would have been in a much better spot had I built credit in my early 20s. Which brings me to my second point, procrastination. Now, for those who may not know, when I was 19 years old, I started my own business. I was doing sports videography for local athletes in the Minneapolis metro area. I started off recording my old high school team and was making highlight videos for them so they could send it to college coaches. And it eventually grew to something bigger. I was filming upwards of 12 teams in the metro area, and I had a really packed schedule. And the more clientele I had, the busier I got. And while I did feel a bit overwhelmed at times, some of that feeling I brought upon myself. With specific clients, I would procrastinate a bit, and it kind of strained those relationships I had with those clients. And oftentimes, many content ideas I had were left sitting on the shelf instead of being executed. Now, I never lost a client, but I definitely had to re-earn their trust. As time went on, and I did actually implement the new ideas I had for my business, I did see growth. But I really do see the missed opportunities by not executing on them earlier, such as creating a website, such as posting more on social media, paying for ads to attract new customers. And the funny thing is, once I actually executed, I realized that these ideas I was waiting so long to execute weren't that hard in the first place. I want you guys to remember this. Doubt is removed by action, and confidence comes from putting in the work. Like I said, I'm in a good spot now, but I really see how far ahead I could have been had I followed through with all of these ideas. Number 3, I would have gotten more internships and explored more career paths. While I did find my lane through trial and error, I really limited myself by not putting myself out there. The only internship I had was when I was 20 years old. I was coming back from Michigan after playing my freshman year of college soccer, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was majoring in computer science, and through my network, specifically my father who had coached youth soccer, knew the parent of one of the players who was the lead software developer for a medical company. He connected me with him, knowing that I was studying computer science, and gave me an opportunity to work with them. I'm very thankful I took that chance because it made me realize how much I didn't want to do that job. I was at that internship for about 9 months, and I knew about 2 months in that I didn't want to do it full time. I remember the exact moment I realized I didn't want to do this anymore. I was driving home from work down Highway 169. Looking at all the traffic in front of me. It was during rush hour. And I got this overwhelming feeling of dread. And I remember telling myself in that exact moment, I do not want the next 40 years of my life to look like this. However, they were paying me, I was getting experience in the field, and I knew that it would look better if I stayed longer. But once I did finish the internship, I kind of isolated myself. I wasn't active on LinkedIn. I wasn't searching for other opportunities. I was just focused on my own business. And like I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of procrastination because I was over analytic. I wouldn't have spent as much time drifting and wondering where I could be. I would have been able to meet more people and broaden my network through these internships that I could have done. Remember, it's not always your skill set. Sometimes it's who you know and who knows you. So you've got to put yourself out there. Which brings me to my next point. Number 4, I would have networked more or just made more friends. From 2015 to 2018, I was a lone wolf. I didn't use social media that much. I was kind of hiding from all the people I knew because of the fact that my soccer career didn't go exactly as I had planned. I felt like my entire identity was based on my ability on the soccer field, and when that didn't work out, I wasn't sure who I was or what I was going to do. Now, I was still playing during this time and somewhat pursuing it, and often used soccer as an excuse to not go to family gatherings or weddings or other social events that I could have attended. And I really do think that these social events were missed opportunities not only on a personal level, but on a professional level. It's at events like these that people usually make lifelong connections, or even meet people that could open doors they never knew existed. And while the internet has allowed this to happen from anywhere, nothing beats an in-person gathering where you can experience all of someone's being, and it's in these chance encounters that life feels magical. Some of my biggest opportunities in life came from networking, came from putting myself out there, came from building a personal brand. And had I done that sooner, I would have had much more opportunities to succeed. And I highly recommend you do that. And looking back, I definitely would have prioritized those events over the athletic career that I had no longer believed in. Now, this next point is very different because of my personal situation. Number 5, I would have broken up with my girlfriend earlier. Now, I met my girlfriend when I was 14 years old. We began dating when we were 15, and we were high school sweethearts. We dated from 2010 until 2018. And yes, we had mini breakups here and there, but we were together for the vast majority of that time. But it reached a point where I realized we were only together because we had been together for so long, and that's never a good reason to stay in a relationship. I felt comfortable, I felt familiar, I didn't want to stray away from that. But I wasn't growing, I felt like it was limiting me. I remember telling one of my really good friends from college, this Japanese guy named Shori, that I wanted to break up with her because I wanted to meet new people. And he told me, that just sounds like an excuse to sleep with other girls. And looking back at it now, I totally get why he said that, but that wasn't the reason why. I was in a new social environment, and I had to say no to a lot of gatherings because I had to hang out with my girlfriend, or because she felt insecure about me going to these social gatherings. College is a time in your life where you're supposed to be exploring, where you're supposed to meet new people. You're supposed to be exposed to new cultures and new languages and new ways of thinking. Which reminds me of this Japanese analogy about getting off at the wrong train stop. If you get on the train and miss your stop, it costs you extra time and money to get off and go back to the spot that you were supposed to get off on. And I totally missed my stop by staying in this relationship far too long. And this can apply to any relationship you have in your life, whether that's a girlfriend or a boyfriend, a best friend that you've known for a long time, a childhood friend, or even an acquaintance that you spend a lot of time with. It's mostly about any relationship that's holding you back from your goals, holding you back from reaching your potential, and these relationships can come in many forms. So keep an eye out for that and don't make the same mistake I made. And while I'm on the topic of relationships, an important thing to realize about women, and this is true for people in general, but an important thing to realize about women is that not all of them have good intentions when they interact with you. Don't get me wrong, I use dating apps, I got my first-hand experience with women, but experience with women is only a big deal if you're not getting any of it at all. Put yourself out there, learn female nature, and react accordingly. And I can expand on this more in a later video. Women can be a big distraction. If you can control what's between your legs, you're putting yourself so far ahead of everyone else. It's okay to have a relationship, but make sure you're putting your purpose before anything else. You don't want to be the guy who's stuck in his hometown because he prioritized his relationship over his purpose. I know some people like that, and it's a shame, honestly, because they could have achieved so much, whether they know it or not. Now, this next point might shock you, but it's 100% the truth. Number 6, I would have used social media more. I avoided social media because I felt like I wasn't where I wanted to be or where I was supposed to be. I didn't have any good news to post about. I wasn't traveling. I wasn't hanging out with friends. I was doing the opposite. I was isolating myself. I was procrastinating on things that I was supposed to do. I wasn't doing anything fun or exciting. And I was constantly comparing myself to people who were doing just that. But what I realized is I could have documented all of the good things in my life during that time, and I'd be able to look back at those points now. I have close to 0 photos of myself from 2015 to 2018 simply due to the fact that I was avoiding social media. I viewed it as something strange or evil, when in reality, that's just the way of the world. And there's plenty of opportunities to improve your life on social media, not make it worse. I still remember how awkward I felt creating a Twitter profile, creating an Instagram profile, starting to use Facebook again. I was making up for lost time once I began using them, but I'm really witnessing how much missed opportunity there was had I started using it earlier. And speaking about documenting the good times, Number 7. I would have celebrated my wins more. I'm such a self-critical person, and my standards are so high for myself. Once I achieve a goal, I'm immediately looking for the next goal, and I don't allow myself the time to celebrate or really share the moment with my loved ones. When I was in high school, I was a PSEO student, which means I was taking college classes as a high school student. I actually graduated from a community college with a 2-year degree before I graduated from high school. And while I did take the time to celebrate that with my family, when I did graduate high school, I didn't have a graduation party. I didn't have a gathering. My parents were separated, and I'm the youngest of 5 boys along with my twin brother. And that might have contributed to it because my older brothers weren't living in the same state as us. And after I graduated high school, I was still searching for which college soccer team I wanted to play for. And even after all of that, when I did finally graduate university, I chose not to walk. I chose not to go to the ceremony. I chose not to get my cap and gown. I chose not to get handed my diploma on the stage. While I saw so many of my friends get cool photos taken at the Stone Arch Bridge or on campus or in front of the Mariucci Arena, I didn't do any of that. And I really regret that because the only photos I have from that time in my life are some selfies I took or a photo of the diploma that came in the mail, when it could have been so much more than that. Even when I got my first real job outside of college, I went to tell my father and he was like, "Oh, good job." He didn't feel so excited for me. And while I don't consider myself the type of person who needs affection or needs support, it would be nice to have that. That's something I definitely want to give to my kids once I do have kids. And I do plan on having kids. And like I mentioned before, I'm doing great. I'm in a good spot. I can sit back and relax if I want to. But because I'm a hypercritical person, there's still many things left that I want to achieve. And these 7 things, had I done them differently, I would have put myself ahead even further. I have about 4 months until I turn 30, and God willing, I make it that far. But I often have the thought to be the person who I needed when I was younger. And I hope that I was able to do that for you guys in this video. And what are your guys' thoughts? For all of my fellow 20-something-year-olds, do you feel like you're behind? Or do you feel like you're on track to hit your goals? Do you have a specific vision for yourself by the time you're 30? Are there specific goals that you want to hit in your 20s? Or do you have a hard time visualizing at all what you want to do in your 20s? Now, it's okay if you don't know what you want to do in your 20s. But what's going to help you find what you actually want is to learn what you don't want. And if you do these 7 things, you'll get closer and closer to figuring out what you really want to do with your life. I'm a very logical person, and while it did take me longer to figure these things out compared to other people who are in my position, I figured them out in the end. There's a famous saying that goes, "A fool learns from his mistakes, but a wise man learns from the mistakes of others." And while I did learn from the mistakes of others, it definitely took me first-hand experience to learn some of these lessons. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. If you have any other questions or any other topics you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments below. Feel free to like if you like the video. And like I always say, focus on the little things, because the little things add up, and that's what makes the big difference. Have a good rest of your day or night. Until next time.
Allahu Akbar.